Hey everybody, it's Josh. I wanted to talk today about church. Now, many of you who've watched my former videos know that my position on church is that, in my opinion, they've never put the focus on connection with Christ. They've never put the focus on that intimate relationship with Christ. And they've always focused on basically worship or money and power. And I think the bigger a church gets, they turn into like a glorified country club. They basically are a status symbol. Now, that's not saying that there's not good people there. That's not saying the pastor is not good. In fact, the preacher or the pastor usually has to be good for them to get big in the first place. I mean, the mega churches, usually those people are very good orators, meaning they have that silver tongue, which I greatly lack. But the problem is, as with anything, the bigger it gets, the more the corruption seeps in. That's because the more human nature is put into the equation. You have to excuse me, my stuff is blowing away here. I've got a storm rolling in. They put more into the equation, so you have a group of 5 people or 6 people. You're much less likely to have that corruption seep in because you're more focused on each other and you're more focused on the task at hand, which is a relationship with Christ. Study of gospels and scriptures, study of the teachings. But the bigger you get, the more pressure there is to get bigger and bigger. The more pressure there is to get money to maintain the church, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because you have to maintain a church. It's literally just becomes a business at some point, which is why I have been against it. But I think that there's things that mainly that I haven't really focused on, and that is the community, the congregation of the churches. Of course there's going to be bad people. Of course there's going to be hypocritical people. First of all, as Frank Turek said, we're all hypocrites. Come on, we got a seat saved for you right next to you. Right next to us. Literally, if someone understands Christianity, they would understand that hypocrisy is a little more of a gray area. And what I mean by that is we are all admitting we're sinners. So we're all going to sin. We're all going to slip up. But a good church is going to hold each other accountable, is going to see those sins and catch those sins and help you stay strong in your repentance and being more Christ-like. I got my notes flying away here. I'm not even following my notes anyway because it was something I needed to talk about at the last minute. Give me a second right here. I'm just going to throw them in my truck. I couldn't go out very far in the woods today because that storm rolling in. Anyway, So, should we go to a church? Well, studies say that children who go to a church are often going to be much happier in their 20s. Married couples that go to a church are going to have a much higher rate of not getting a divorce, much lower rate of divorce. It is something you have to understand, that we need human connection. That connection to Christ, to me, is a very personal thing. But once you connect with Christ, He draws you out into the world to spread His word, to be a servant of peace and light. That's why I was drawn to do these videos. I understand everyone that I've talked to on this channel, for the most part, there's been a couple that haven't, have had bad experiences with churches. We have to look objectively at this and say how much of that is because we are sick of the judgmental people there, the holier than thou people, the people who don't act Christ-like, and how much of it is our ego and we all do this. We all try to shape God into our own image. So if there's a sin or a commandment that we don't like, or that like a verse that we don't agree with, we will twist it to work in our lives, so it is most convenient for us. I think that there's at least a little bit of each of those in our judgment of churches. So what do? Well, I know we have our own little church on here, but it's as great as it is. I was trying to hear I saw a little doe running earlier. As great as that is, we have to understand that we, being online like this, we can talk to each other. I can give you all guidance. I can help you all as much as I can. But that is not the same as the human connection, being physically next to someone. Being physically next to a pastor or preacher or any member of a church who can be there for you right there. And you can be there for them. I think that we get so judgmental ourselves. You know, churches struggle to stay afloat because, first of all, the numbers are so low now that they're not getting the money they need to survive. But how is that doing good for our society, our country? We need more churches doing good deeds, building houses for people who've lost their houses in disasters, feeding the poor. We need more of these. So it's a question, obviously, only you can answer. I think as I grow as a Christian, because I'm still in the infancy, or maybe even maybe toddler stage, but probably more infancy stage, I think that I start to understand these things much better. I had a jaded view of churches because I saw the failures. And of course, society points out the failures because society despises churches. It's worse now than it's ever been because they're like, look at look at what they're pushing as legislation. You can't legislate your morality. What do you legislate then? That's exactly what we all legislate as morality. If we're not legislating morality, what are we legislating? I guess we could have AI take over and just make our legislation for us with no human touch to it at all, no human love or compassion. No, that's what we legislate. And the founding fathers of this country, as hypocritical as they were, many of the leaders in the founding fathers were not pure Christians as we judge them today. They didn't accept the divinity of Christ. They accepted the teachings of Christ and thought he was the greatest teacher to ever live. In fact, it's hard pressed to find anyone who says that he wasn't the greatest moral teacher to ever live. And with Word made flesh, as it says in John, maybe that's what it takes. And just at least accepting the morality. Now, I believe in the divinity. It's a huge debate on, kind of the Catholic versus Protestant. Do you go to heaven by works or by faith alone? Or is it a little bit of both? I believe faith can come in different ways. I'm starting to believe this. I'm still not clear on it. And until God makes it clear in my mind, I won't really say for sure. But if you live your life accepting the teachings of Christ and don't accept his divinity, I still think that there is hope for you and your salvation. And what I mean is, possibly in the afterlife, if you've strived to follow his teachings, you will still have a chance to be saved. That's just like people who've never heard the name Jesus Christ. If they've heard the words, if they've heard the morality that he teaches, then I believe that the Father is just, is what Christ tells us. We have to believe God's love for us gives us not only second and third chances, but chances as much as we need them. Because he knows our heart. He knows us better than we could ever hope to know ourselves. Because he knows the end game. He knows our purpose and our meaning in this life, and whether we will fulfill that or not. I encourage you all to take a tour of your local churches. Just check them out. Keep an open mind. And if you start getting red flags right away, maybe just go and talk to the preachers or pastors or whoever and see what they have to say. If what they have to say is good, then go check it out and don't worry about the judgmental people. We have to understand that does not matter at all. It doesn't. I get it. There's awful people everywhere. And the ones in the church are especially bad. Those are the ones who angered Christ. Like the merchants at the temple. He's flipping those tables. But how will they ever get better unless true born-again Christians, or true seekers of the truth at the very least, go and try to help make it better. If we just write them off before we ever give them a chance, we are no better, if not worse, than them. You know, I have been going to, I've gone to a couple churches in my area, but the one that I mainly go to, I love the pastor. He seems like a great guy. I have not had a long talk with him one-on-one because it is basically, it's a bigger church, not a mega church or anything, but there's like lines of people going to talk to him after, and I'm sure he's bombarded with people nonstop. But I don't know if that's the kind of church I want either. But it seems to be the kind of church that my wife wants to go to and that my wife needs. And that's perfectly fine with me. I've already got my relationship with Christ. Whatever it takes for her and my children to get one, to form one, that's going to be I'll be in 100%. Now, I know for a fact that there's bad people at this church. And as in bad, I mean hypocritical, as in judging everyone, and a lot of them saying that they have a relationship with Christ when they don't know a thing about him, except for what, the baseline of the Gospels say. But that's okay. Those people, maybe they're still seeking. Maybe they're just faking it. The pastor actually called them out and said, a lot of you are going to get to heaven and God is going to say, I've never known you. You have never taken the time to come to me, to introduce yourself to me the way that you wanted to introduce yourself to me. Of course, he knows us all. He knows everything about us, like I said, but the relationship will have never been formed. And I don't know how many people that touched when the pastor called them out saying, you need to focus on the connection with Christ. But that was the sermon that he gave that made me, that sealed the deal for me that I will give this church a chance, and that I should start looking into actually endorsing churches and trying to get all of you to go and try to make these churches better. We're all sinners. We're all imperfect. We're all unworthy. And yet we are all worthy. If you're not the type of person that needs that communion, the type of person who needs that connection, that needs someone to lean on, someone to be there for you when you need them, that's fine. Let this truck pass. But I'm telling you that you might not even know that you need that, and you really do. You might not even know what you're missing. Just pray about it. I understand there's social anxiety within a lot of you too. Let Christ take that away. If it is a lion's den, then walk into that lion's den fearlessly. Be like Daniel. Only maybe you can tame those lions. Maybe you can teach those lions And maybe those lions will be a force of good instead of evil. Okay, everybody, that's it for now. God bless.